Yeah.
Well, Sara, thank you so much for helping with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for hosting too. I'm really thrilled to be here. I am Sara Vale. Let's see, I am a mother of two wonderful kids, and I had an privilege to homeschool them for 10 plus years. And I'm also an engineer by training, and I currently work as a technical program manager at Instagram Wellbeing. Part of what I do in my job is to take care of well-being of our users, so mostly on anti-bullying or contain the spread of misinfo. So that's in a nutshell about me. Yeah.
That is really interesting. And, I met both of your children. They're really wonderful. One of them went to, well, I think they both went to school with, well, one of them went to school with one of my children, and of course we know the other one as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you also were like a coach for a Lego team,
First Lego League. Yeah.
first Lego
So
League.
I coached during my homeschooling stint. I had probably 6 plus years of running coaching for First Lego League. I had teams that went in from starting the first year with just winning the project and then gradually moving up and then attending the international level First Lego League competition. That was a big thing that my kids enjoyed. And one of the things in that I recalled, thanks for this interview. It made me go back and, look back on my previous um, work as an educator. One of the things that came up and that was really fascinating was the space debris that we explored as part of the robotics project. So yeah, we can talk more about that as we go. Yeah.
I, the first time I went to the moon was in 1969, and the population of the world was basically half of what it is now. And the world was a lot more disconnected,
Hmm.
and everybody was pretty much limited to the resources and knowledge that they had at hand. Whatever book was in their library, what the people around them knew, what just happened to be broadcast on one of the three broadcast television stations, is a quite a bit of different world. And
Hmm.
now the population is twice as big, and some people see that as a problem. The twice the number of mouths to feed, twice the number of bodies to clothe, and families to house. But I think that's missing the point that it also means there's twice the number of brains
Hmm.
available to work and solve problems. But it feels to me that uh, that brain power is not actually going towards solving problems. It's going towards other things. And I was wondering, your experience as an educator, working with kids at Instagram, I'm sure you're seeing lots of ways that brain power may be spent on things other than solving problems that actually improve our lives. I just
Hmm.
wonder if maybe you could comment on your observations.
That's a really good observation. And I'm also an optimist, which means I am really optimistic where we are leading towards. And having worked around young kids, especially at Instagram, we're like fresh out of college and so passionate about world problems and wanting to make an impact, whether it's climate change through platforms, social media platform of promoting authoritative information, saying these are the good sources that we should leverage and learn and be more informed. I am hopeful that we are moving in the right direction, although we did, looking back at the history and even recently, there are many hiccups, and that's part of what makes us human. But I remain hopeful that we are going to go and solve bigger problems as we go. One being exploring space. That is something, from what I recall in my 90s watching Cosmos, I used to think that we are going to be there right now. The start of the 2000, we got to be there, and it still hasn't happened like as fast as I would like to see. But things like what's happening with SpaceX and privatization of all this, bringing in more minds into it, and then opening it up, not just to developed country in places like India, where they're also spearheading so many research programs. I remain hopeful that we are going to expand and solve problems. As we go after solving, we're also having our own issues with conspiracy theory and whatnot that recently things have been evolving, that definitely makes me pause and wonder, are we, taking a step back? But looking at the large history of humankind, it's always that few steps back, but we always move forward. So I remain hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I mean, one of the big stories last week was a lot of people making money on investing in GameStop. Uh, and that really calls to mind how things like investing in stocks and trying to make a quick dollar really consumes a lot of our time and attention and our conversation and those types of things. I mean, how many problems could have been solved if these same people were trying to figure out a cheaper way to purify water, or
Hmm.
a way to kind of improve the insulation of a house, or a way to take the waste products that we produce and actually use it to grow food, or to make useful products we have. But
Yeah, but listen, Nate, we need more people like you asking these questions. Unfortunately, not many well educated are stepping up and taking. It starts within the local community, what we do in our near surrounding, how we treat people around us, and what do we want to feed in. And then, given what's happening with GameStop is a classic example, and then what we saw with the riots, so many conspiracy that kind of unfolded. It's to be witnessing such a thing in a developed country like US. It's mind-boggling. It's like it really takes us back into having this division and the energy that's going in and the amount of conspiracy theory that's spinning out of it. So much of our brain power is wasted. I agree 100% or 1000% with what you said, but we need more and more people asking that question. Where are we focusing our energy? Is that the right place? How can we bring our communities together? That can start with the local, within your neighborhood or the schools, any place that where there's a gathering. How can we bring ourselves together? What are the immediate problems that we can solve? Start there, and then that will eventually trickle down. So I share your concern and worry often that this is not the right direction, but like I do have a lot of faith in our younger generation and what we can go after, solving the bigger issues. These are all small hiccups in the large scheme of things. Yeah, I keep telling that to myself so I can remain hopeful. So yeah.
wait, I kind of I see a lot of problems with the way things that are currently done. I think about like rural America, where you have kids growing up on farms, and they're actually needed to run that farm, right? I mean, they
Hmm.
have to milk the cow. They need to go and feed the animals. They need to help plant the crops and bring in the harvest. And they're even from a really early age, um, sort of like the nature of production and the effort that goes into it, and um, understanding where the things that you need in life comes from is right there in front of you. But then if you look at sort of the experience of our children in the cities, uh, to them, a farm is an imaginary thing. Theoretically, they know what it is. Food comes from the grocery store. It's on
Hmm.
aisle 2B. That's where you get
Yeah.
the this, and it magically appears. And all you need is money to go and make it appear. And
Yeah.
it's like from an early age, they're taught, not necessarily directly, but just by their personal experience, that it's all about the amount of money you have, without realizing that that money in itself actually is nothing. It's
Yeah.
you could give a king from like a couple of hundred years ago all the billions of dollars you want, and he would not have an airplane or a spaceship, or he would not be able to uh, even have anything made out of plastic. It'd be just, um, uh,
Hmm.
all that comes from the application of thinking and engineering around the world to us, and it's really that mind that changes things. And And money is just it's anyway. So that's the kind of the things I struggle with, is that some of the basic concepts are really lost, and that's where you start having like all this population start saying, well, the key part is, how do we redistribute the money, because that would solve all of our problems. you know
I wish it's a simple logistics thing that we kind of figure out a way to do it. You hit the nail on, talking about the farms and how disconnected the urban kids are. I don't know if you heard of Stardew Valley or
oh,
Animal
what is it
Crossing.
called?
Stardew Valley, it's a game. The reason I bring that up is, urban kids get together and play. All it is you're building a farm, and then you're growing your own farm, and then you go mining. It's like, you can really take that because they're so disconnected from the real world that this is so popular among the urban kids, right? This game. That's actually want me to cry. Like seriously, these are real world that's happening not too far from you if you're willing to drive in and see. And there are so many things you could go use your mind to solve. But then again, these kids have no reality check because that's in theory, whatever we try to talk about, the disconnect, and then having this disparity with money and how the rural kids still have to go through is still in theory for the urban kids. So somehow if we can find a way to bring those things, that's where I feel like um, in schools, places like First Lego League or like any other form of robotics that foster the engineering thinking to be able to go take in your local community. How can I improve the harvesting? There was one year that was a theme in FLL is all about the food, food farm, like taking from the farm, getting the food delivered without having much wastage, because even after those are produced from the farm, many of those produce gets wasted because it's not stored properly, not delivered on time, so many other issues underlying. So I remember working with kids looking at this problem spans across, not just stays within the farm, it goes all the way up to the urban, to make sure at least we're not wasting what we have produced, right? It's the complete life cycle and watching it closely. One of the things that my team did was how do we make sure that salads are not, infested with E. coli, and how do we detect it early using an engineering principle, like, if you could have a sensor in your tongs that you pick up the salad that can change color, you could detect it. Simple ways their mind works for young kids is amazing. If only they have been connected. To me, it's like, yeah, the Stardew value is great, gives an opportunity to grow your own farm in virtual world, all that. How can we take that gaming to the next level to be able to connect the real world problems and have these kids understand it and then way to break it down and how can they solve this? There's so much potential that we think that you have to have an engineering degree and you have to be working in order to solve it. It's just a false feeling that we foster in our kids very early on, that we kind of come in the way, we as an adults come in our way, in the way of kids learning. If we can somehow bring it down and teach them that critical thinking and to solve a problem that's close, near enough within the community, and then expand it, there's so much we can accomplish. There's so many more simpler engineering solutions we can come up with. As an educator, I feel like we are not doing justice to the kids. That's, it's not about just learning math and reading. There's so much more. These kids have the potential to go solve the real world problem. Teaching that to be integral part of who they are very early on helps them to take that learning and always be a problem solver in their heart. Once they get that mode, get their thinking on, it's hard to undo. I mean, I've seen that firsthand with so many of the kids that I've worked with. Anything that they see, like it goes from being emotional to analytically thinking, okay, this is a problem. What can I do to solve it? How can I go about solving it? If it's in my power, what are some things I could change? If money is not an issue, what can I do? Giving that ability or empowering the students, we can go really far and then bring this disconnect using a gaming somehow. If we can take that reality of farming kids to the urban kids and then connect the dot across, there's so much we can accomplish both ways. And I'm sure just because they grow up in a farm, it's like we often undermine their critical thinking that they get from their hands-on experience that the urban thing adults we all face that we can learn from. ways I feel that can get expanded, not just limited to one problem. Yeah. I believe for everything there is a solution through engineering. That's me. That's why I always say that, like, I'm an engineer at heart. That's how I view my life, and I feel like everybody can. You don't need to have an engineering degree.
Yeah, no, I definitely 100% agree with that. I just worry about like the education that most people get that I see.
Mhm,
It's all very much kind of prepackaged, kind of conveyor belt type of education where you sit in class and your whole
mhm,
purpose for being in class is to go and listen and write down marks on paper. And you know you know what's right and what's wrong based upon, is it in the back of the book, and does your answer conform with what's in the back of the book. There's some
yeah.
sometimes the back of the book could be wrong. It's like
Yeah,
this.
it's what we call exercising versus problem solving. We what we learn in school is exercises. You learn a concept, you go exercise that learned concept, and you're done. You
Mm,
prove it by taking a test, pretty much like a vomit, you're done. Whereas when you problem solve, you're really taking it apart and thinking about the problem, and then understanding the application of it. It all has to come together. If you can make the kids understand that there is a use case for what they're learning along the big things that we force them to learn, it will go a lot deeper and further in their own, and then that's how we can enable them to be a better problem solver in the long run. And we need all the minds that we can. And if you really want to go to moon in 24, that isn't very far. And I feel like it's, you know, that's coming up very soon, right? So there's so much we can do. Yeah.
yeah, less than it needs to be less than 1,400 and some odd days. That's We don't have many more than that. But yeah, I mean, all the subjects we teach, to your point, are kind of taught out of the context in which they're useful. You
Yeah.
don't use math to go and figure out how to improve a system or to analyze it. You use math
Mhm.
in like the abstract sense. It's applied to other people's problems that you really don't care about, as opposed to applying it to your own situation that you're actually
Mhm.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much more that we can solve if people understand and connect the dots. Getting that often falls, it's we have to remember the whole assembly line of our education came for factory purposes, not really for current. We haven't evolved how we are educating our kids. Unfortunately, we moved along so much more about our retail shopping, our everyday experience have changed so much, and how we consume news. You mentioned three channels. Now, how many? Nobody has a count of, so we have grown tremendously, but did our education keep up with how we are teaching? Such a disservice. I felt really, it was a hard decision, but truly liberating when I chose to leave my well-being paying job to go out and, take that responsibility in my own hands. And I thought, worst thing I'm going to do is try for a year. If it doesn't work, there's always, other alternative. Coming from India and not having many opportunities, where it was pretty rigid, pretty much like a ladder approach. You miss the boat, you miss it for life kind of mentality. And then to come here, it was really liberating. And I wish more people realize the amount of opportunities and amount of freedom that comes with it, the responsibilities to go out and live a meaningful life, to go pursue your own things, and then teach the kids and let them explore, let them find the passion, because that takes time. It doesn't, passion is not something you just take from a textbook. They got to go out and explore many things before they even know what is that they want. And I still don't know as an adult, and I'm still learning and growing. And it's unfortunate that we expect them to go through that conveyor belt. And by the time of 17, you should know what you want to study and what you want to become in life. There's so much societal pressure that we turn and put it on the kids that, if you want to change big things, it has to start small. And I feel like education is the answer to many of our problems, including the concern of focusing too much on money, materials, or versus, all the conspiracy theories that we hear, and the GameStop making money. A lot of this comes from not being fully aware or educated to know, to make that critical decision of, am I thinking this right? Is this really true? Asking that, pausing and asking the right question. Yeah, we're missing that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we also have to differentiate between education and schooling. Uh,
Mm,
I think where all of our programs are focused on giving people more school, but within the framework of those buildings and those hours spent and those activities, how much education is actually happening? What's the
mhm,
actual product of this experience for these people?
mhm. Yeah, yeah. There's so much that can be done. Yeah.
Uh, so most of the non-space people I talk to do not know that we're planning to send astronauts to the moon in 2024. I would say as high as like 80%. Like if I went up to somebody in Starbucks, which I've done several times, or people on the street, which I've also done all pre-COVID,
Mhm, mhm,
and said, "Hey, did you know that we're sending astronauts to the moon in 2024?" I mean, a lot of people, I would say, no, I had no idea until you told me, or I thought, that's where astronauts go every time they go to space, or, I thought they
That's
shut down the
appalling. Yeah.
program, and uh, before we sort of arranged this interview, did you know that we were planning to send astronauts to the moon?
Hmm. Yeah. I used to be a space enthusiast before kids. I remember going to the library during my grad school, getting all the Cosmos on VHS tape. That's where I got to watch, and that's how I spent my evening with my husband. We used to geek about watching, and then the first landing of rover, like watching that like an Oscar, something like a celebrity minute by minute updates. I used to be glued to the TV and used to watch. In fact, going back, my son is named, it's a coined Tamil name. We are so much into space, or we used to. It's actually Victor of Cosmos. That's what it means. It's a coined term for Vin in Tamil means stars, and J, like in Sanskrit or in Tamil, it's like a Victor. So that's just how we used to think about space being integral part of us. It's not like it's we used to be so fascinated with everything with what's happening with space, and I used to keep up with things, but not so much these days. But I used to. So yeah, I did know about, and I do keep up with SpaceX with their launches, and I do watch it regularly. So that's something as a family we all do, and share those updates as part of the family thing that we talk in our signal. That's the first thing we share in any post that comes out with all the updates. So yeah, I'm really, excited, and I hope they keep up with the timeline. Although I'm nervous looking the clock down with all that happens in the actual world here, can really keep up with it and we don't get derailed. Yeah.
Um, so it sounds like you're really excited about us potentially sending people back to the moon. Uh, if you were to talk to somebody else who's like, why would we do that? Or, you know, what's the value of it? These types of things. What would you say to sort of communicate the value to them?
It's an awfully lot of waste if Earth is the only space that we want to limit ourselves to. Universe is so vast and infinite, and if we are not exploring, I feel like we are bound to, as a species, we are bound to go out and do this. That's how we progress to where we are now. So that's just feel like it's inherently there. So just because some people question, I would question their notion of what is the limiting them to even envision that opportunity. Why are they I would be looking at the other way around. What's wrong with people and not be able to see it, because we are destined to go beyond just this one planet. It's awfully wasted otherwise to limit ourselves to really small. My favorite quote from Carl Sagan is pale blue dot. I don't know if you've seen that video. I go back to it anytime I feel down or I'm lost. That's my go-to, motivational clip. That 3 minutes that says how minuscule that we are, just the moon of dust. That's what we are. To think that, to be arrogant, to think that we know and we control this. It's just, we are so insignificant, and there's so much to the universe that we got to go out and explore and be there. So yeah.
So, from your standpoint, it's inevitable that humanity expands out beyond the Earth, goes to the moon, goes to
It's just
Mars.
a matter of time. Yeah.
It's just a matter of and the moon is just the next logical step
Stopping.
along that
Yeah.
that path.
I'm
Um,
surprised we didn't do this before, actually, looking back. It's like 72 was the last one, right? When we had the Apollo 17, or I forget when, right
that's
after the
correct.
69 thing. So we haven't done any such, this kind of taking person to moon back. At least we always had the ambition of going to Mars in 2030, but that's like, seems now in hindsight, this is like an interim hop. There's so much we can learn, especially in terms of the fuel consumption, and we can carry everything. How can we make a living out of something in moon first before we go hop into other planets? It just seems like it's the most logical next step that we should have probably done even earlier. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense to me too. And I think if your vision is humanity branching out, why aren't we on the moon? We need to learn how to live there. We need to learn the resources there. We need to figure out the systems and
Mhm, mhm.
start really pushing the engineering and kind of like the development. But there's a lot of people that don't see that as the future. Maybe for religious reasons, they think we should stay on the earth, or that life here will end, and our the earth is enough, or they just don't see that. Are there any reasons that could be useful in showing value to this set of people, or is it just a matter of kind of getting them to expand their vision to that bigger future?
Yeah, we are also the ones we used to believe Earth is flat. We still have that, what they call intelligent design in some of the homeschool circle. It depends on who you talk to. Sometimes the religious things gets in the way of teaching real science. So I have seen it up close, and I've talked to people. If you really look back and see, Galileo didn't have it easy. Many of our previous scientists struggled with the church, and then the distinction of proving science, having its place because it's still young. We cannot answer a lot of the spiritual questions. So religion, while religion has its place, science has a way of proving facts as facts. So we need to have that distinction and not have one take over the other. It both has its place. I feel more than religion, it's a spirituality that grounds you. You need as a human, so you don't feel like a lost soul. From my own, that's just my own opinion that I strongly feel and believe in, and I something that I talk to my kids about it. And science is something how we know something for certain. Like you wake up, you are going to see the sun, and sun always comes up on the east. Those things you can just change it because you're religious, or you could do a magic. Those things are facts, and it has its own place. Just like how we had to struggle and prove. There's so much in the history we can learn from. How did we come out and then have majority of people accept that Earth is round? Right. So we gotta have and not forget those learnings and be humbled by it. This is going to keep coming up because anytime new things are explored, there's always the fear of unknown, that it's a human instinct to be careful and be worried and be skeptical. But science is what's going to help us to get over that skepticism and to be able to answer. So I strongly believe in the end, just like how we came to accept that Earth is round now, not flat, we are going to move forward with accepting that it's okay to be on this different, moon or other planets to go explore. That's what we're destined for. So I strongly believe that. So that's how we answer with our own history.
Yeah, and I think we have to be careful, just like schooling versus education. Exactly what is science, and for a lot of people, the gap between the person that's actually doing the exploration of the scientific field and where they are almost seems like the same gap as between a person that's a follower in a religion and a priest.
Hmm.
And it's a very dangerous gap, I think, because um, you know, uh, the priest, you have to accept at their word. It's because of the history and what have you. But with the science, it's important for the person to kind of understand the process and be able to inspect it. And
Mhm, mhm.
it's really that process of making observations, coming up with theories, doing experimentation or making further observations, and seeing if that confirms your theory or not.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's kind of like this constantly improving understanding of the world around us. But it's very easy for science to be just memorizing facts and figures, appeal to
Yeah,
authority, a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo that you have no clue what they're doing. They're just
yeah.
trying to take over the world and influence people.
See, this
It's
is why I feel that, one of the things I really admire in Pope, the way they run in Catholicism is they constantly evolve. They're not stagnant. They may not keep up with the science in lockstep, but they eventually come to accept some of the things that science has proved enough. That when religious leaders like Pope come out and accept some of those science, that sends a very strong message that your leader of the religion standing up and embracing science. We got to have more of that happening. And then it's also partly, you know, as a community, we may think that we are not playing a significant role, but each one of us have that responsibility to be really seeking to understand the science and promoting more of this common man who can really be the connector between the science mind versus the common layman who's working in a job and don't have the bandwidth to go dig in and understand because it's pretty complex to understand in scientific terms and keep up with it. That's why we need more people like Carl Sagan and Bill Nye and more and more like Neil deGrasse Tyson who can come in and talk science to folks. And we got to promote more and more and make it exciting for people to understand at a high level what it is, to be able to break down. That's something the burden is on the scientists that we are not doing a good job today to bring the public along. You can't just blame the public that they're not getting it right. It's also equally responsible. I mean, the scientists are equally responsible for bringing the public along with their work so that you don't create such a wide gap between what we are going after to what's happening. It's like you it's like what you mentioned about being informed, still going back to the old way of living versus still being in urban. We got to have that connecting tissue between these two somehow, and that's when we are going to flourish as a society and move forward. But till that happens, there'll always be the friction. There'll always be people who are questioning, and that's what gives also space for all the conspiracy theories to grow. To say, because you don't have facts, even the moon landing, even today, it's questioned by some people, right? It's like even after they've gone through so many, was it 12? I forget how many iteration of people going in and landing in moon. It still didn't stop people from questioning and causing conspiracy theories, right? Around that too, that it was all a staged and fake thing. So it's how can we demystify and make people understand and bring them along? So it's largely on the science community, and I would say anyone educated. And like what you're doing is such an amazing thing that it's reaching out to common people. That also kind of makes them pause, even if they didn't know. For example, you said 80 some person didn't know that we are landing, but the fact you talked to them, I'm sure that made them go and read more about it or understand. Oh, really? That's good to know. Or maybe I don't want to. So you also kind of being an educator without even realizing that's what you're doing. Asking that question, making people pause from their daily mode of running to, oh yeah, this is happening, and what does it even mean for me? How do I am I scared or do I embrace that? It's bringing that. If I wish more people are doing that, not just in terms of space. I would say this is for stem cells research, any new technology. There's always a fear that comes along with it because there's a disconnect. Yeah.
and it's been really educational for me too. I went up to a person in Starbucks and I was like, "Hey, can I interview you for my project?" And we ended up talking about the famine in Yemen for about an hour.
Wow.
And apparently it's like the longest famine in recorded history, or something like that. Millions of people not getting food. And uh, I think engineering, like you, I can help to solve so many problems. Why don't we have boats that are actually used to produce food that
Mm.
we can go and move around the earth and actually produce the food on the boat and deliver fresh food there. Yeah, I mean, we could engineer that. It seems kind of straightforward. A big vertical farm on a
Mhm,
boat,
mhm.
using like aquaponics and
Yeah,
kind of feeding stuff. What would it take to actually create such a ship? Maybe we can break that down to steps. We create a little model. We can create little prototypes. We can scale it up. Um, and try to make it low cost. And I talked to somebody else who uh, said they don't think we should be going to the moon because we messed up the Earth and we might mess up the moon too. And that's like I just had no way of really um, relating to that idea. I mean, like the moon, as far as we know, is a dead body. Like pollution only makes sense to me in the sense of life and its impact on life, right? I mean,
but there is a valid point with that person's fear is the gravitational force, right? Right now, it's all set in motion. If we were in my mind, when you say mess up, I'm thinking maybe something setting off course. And what would Earth look like if we didn't have the moon? Not having that gravitational pull that comes with every 28 days or whatever, that the whole shift in our climate. What does that really mean in the long run? I'd be curious to understand. That doesn't mean I don't want to go. We are species that made of mistake. We make our mistake. That's how we learn and pick up. Some are big, some are small, but that's why we do the scientific research. We are not going uninformed to go just land and blow up, right? That's not what the intention is here. So, in order to answer that question, for the person would be like, so what is the root cause for your fear? Are you afraid because it's going to go off with, so is it the climate impact are you worried about? Or is that we are not going to be able to grow crops and then we'll be in direct, the moon is not in between, therefore it's getting too much sunlight? What is that? Like, trying to understand that and to alleviate, because it's very easy to shut off too, and that actually creates more and more division. If you were to answer within my limited knowledge, I would try to first make them verbalize, articulate their fear, and maybe they might go out and find the answer. I may not have the answer. So you have the power, by reaching out and talking to such people, that you could also kind of see that thought, like, what is that that's making you ask that question? Is that fear of unknown? It's like, what is that unknown in your mind? What are you envisioning that? What define that disaster for me? Mess up. What do you define as mess up? That's going to help them, and then that's only going to scale as we have more people thinking. They're going to go and ask that to somebody else and go talk, and then as they talk, they may hear themselves that they're being ridiculous, or that they don't have facts to back themselves. It's just a speculation, which is okay. Which we are all, humans with that both sides of the coin. We debate within our head, and I often like to think that rational thinking become derive at that conclusion where science is going to help us inform and do better. So it's alarming when people ask such questions, but I'm glad they're also openly asking you the question and not shying away from it. So thanks for being the platform for not just promoting it, but also to fill that gap. That's a really critical piece. That the more and more I think about what's causing the division, why are we so polarized in so many issues that we see right in front of us? Climate change seems like so obvious. Why is that not everybody agrees? It's just getting to root cause. I don't have an answer, but it's a very fascinating thing that I'm learning each day. So what else can we do to help? Do I know the answer? Am I also worried now that I talked about, am I understood? So I also want to understand a little bit deeper. And yeah, one of the things I have, you know, experienced in my own so far is my son is at a university where he felt there was a need to, this pre-pandemic. So he took a class. I forget the exact title. It's all about the existential crisis, like, what happens when the world comes to an end, whether through nuclear or power, like, any big famine or pandemic was one of them. So he that with that he evolved and created a whole institute, or a department is now created, where they go now with fully funded from several companies to go dig deeper and understand this existential crisis problem. To me, it sounded like people must be already doing it, but it looks like it's not. So there's still so many opportunities that all this kind of fear of doomsday things, that's what he's looking at. And I'm learning so much in the process, listening to him explain stuff. So I'm really fascinated what's the kids are also thinking and taking ownership of what happens when we do go leave Earth and go live in another place, to live off of what's on that particular planet. You can only carry so much from Earth. How do we decouple that dependency, and what are some things that we could be doing in short term or long term, and how long term is that? And it's really fascinating. We're living in a fascinating time, and I'm really excited. Yeah. Sorry, I went on
No,
too
no,
long.
it's fantastic. But I think about that too. Like global climate change and space and pollution, they all come together in my mind in the sense that in order to successfully create those civilizations out of the earth, you have to be able to understand your entire supply chain, and you need to be able to understand your waste chain and figure out ways to take your waste and feed it back into your supply. um, there's this thing that I just came across, this movement called precious plastics. I'm not sure if
Mm.
you're familiar about with it, but it's kind of like this community movement to go and collect plastics, and then melt them down and turn them into products, and people can actually see the entire process themselves. You go and you put a plastic thing in the recycling thing, you don't know what happens to it. Does it just eventually get thrown away, what have
Is it
you?
like the four ocean movement? Is it like four ocean and zero plastic
I
kind
haven't
of?
heard of these, um, so I don't know, um, but
There's many sustainable products that people make, like jackets, shoes, with all the nets that they even get from the oceans. That's been like, for crab farming, what gets left out in the ocean, and all the nets that disintegrate, all the plastics that they go out and people collect and make products out of. Yeah, that's really, there's so much that can be done in that space too. Yeah, like you said, it all comes together in my mind. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, exactly. I mean, because in order to save the Earth, we need to live like space settlers here on Earth. We should have complete a view of our kind of supply chain, and even like water recycling. I saw
Hmm.
this European company that makes this continuous shower. So it takes the water, runs it through a filter and a detector, heats it up,
Mm.
and then it comes out again. Because
Oh wow. Okay.
uh, so you can essentially take a 20-30 minute shower, but only use like 5 gallons of water, because it's the
Wow.
same 5 gallons being sent through the system again.
Recycle. Yeah. Imagine we pay so much for, at least in where I live, we have to pay for water sewage. I mean, it gets out too, right? We can reduce so much of that waste if it's recycled. If it's something that's small scale that can be put in, like in your block or in your neighborhood or in your home, like your electric meter or something in there that just kind of recycles for some of that, at least for the shower and the kitchen thing, few things that we can somehow recycle better and use. There's so much we can save. Yeah. That's
Uh,
really fascinating. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
and even energy cost, because the water that's going down the drain, it's pretty, probably a quarter of a degree less than when it came out. So you
Mm,
could bump up the heat of that for much cheaper than warming up brand new water that's
yeah,
coming into the house. So it's kind of
yeah,
neat.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so uh, let's see. The other question I had for you is, if it was safe and affordable, would you go to space?
absolutely. I'm ready tomorrow. When can I go?
So it's safe enough. It's just we just need to work on the
I know. Yeah,
availability.
exactly. And then the affordability, right? That's big. I'm jealous of people who can afford and go. I heard about that Tom Cruise who's going into space for some movie. It's like, how lucky, right? Whatever means that makes it possible. That's amazing. I always was fascinated with flying. I almost got my private license, and when I realized how expensive it is to keep up as an hobby, I quit because you have to keep renewing the license and even to get the hangar space to, put your plane. It just didn't seem feasible. But I always fantasize the idea of owning and be able to go fly at different places and just land in a small, really small rural airport and enjoy the local area and be back home. But yeah, so I can't wait if there is such a thing that we are allowed to go. I hope I get to see my kids go. If even if I don't, I hope I live long enough to see that happening. Yeah.
I think you will. I
Uh,
think by 2030, space travel will be common just in the decade. I think this is the decade of space travel.
mhm, mhm. If you don't mess up something big on earth. Yes. Yeah. I
Well,
remain hopeful. We'll see.
I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Um, now, this was fun. Thanks for doing this project. I'm really excited and thrilled for you. And then I applaud your discipline to keep it going for more than a year and wish you luck in keeping up till the day we really land, even if the timeline changes. So you don't, stop this. So I'm encouraging all my friends to participate as well because it's a really neat idea to be able to connect and chat about these things, which otherwise we don't take the time to. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I need to find a lot more friends. You
I'm
know,
on it.
thank you. Well, you
Yeah,
have a good rest of your day then, and I look forward to staying in touch.
yeah. Thanks, Nathan. Bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah.